Crowhill here. Today we review a stout and discuss blacks and the Republican Party. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Good evening, Pigweed.
Good evening, Crowhill.
What's on your mind today?
Well, this recent Juneteenth, my son was over and we were grilling.
Mm-hmm.
He made some reference to Juneteenth. And so I said, oh, you mean the day that Republicans freed the slaves of Democrats?
Right.
And, I was kind of having fun with my own little joke here.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah. So how did that happen?
Yeah.
And so I just didn't think that it was an opening to an actual conversation because I was still relishing my great joke. And he said, so then I thought later, I'm like, you could take that two ways. It could be, when did that become the party of the majority? When did more black people start voting? Or did he mean, when did the Democrat Party become the party that has the best interests of blacks in mind as opposed to Republicans?
Okay.
So let's get into each of those.
Sure.
At some point after I get into this not very stouty looking stout.
This,
what in the world is going?
If somebody poured me this
world
and said, "Here's your stout," I'd say you did this wrong.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, go back and give me a stout.
Can we get a bartender? Can I get a new bartender, please?
Yeah, exactly. Somebody who knows what a stout is.
Yes.
This is as clear as a Miller Lite almost.
It's kind of floaty though.
There's a lot of little floaties in there. I don't know what that is.
All right. Well, let's do this.
See.
Give it a sniff test. See if you get anything stouty coming out of there.
A lot of chocolatey.
No, from that?
Yes. Give it a sniff.
That is nuts.
I'm getting a lot of chocholatey sniff.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that amazing?
100%.
It's totally chocolate aroma.
Because my experience...
And a totally clear...
If you're brewing, I generally brew 3-gallon batches, if you want a black chocolatey beer, the amount of chocolate grains is slightly more than what fits in your hand.
Yeah.
Out of 7 pounds of grain,
right,
that is enough to make it chocolatey tasting and turn it black.
But this apparently uses white chocolate.
Okay.
That's how they keep
it. So it's not coming from the burnt milled grain.
Right. What that's called chocolate malt, which has no chocolate in it. It's just a malt that's milled or that's kilned in a certain way to make it have a chocolatey flavor. But this has a chocolatey flavor for sure. But see, the thing about a stout is you expect to get a roasted barley flavor, and there's obviously no roasted barley flavor in here.
There's no roasted barley flavor, and there's no real lingering mouthfeel that you get from a stout.
No.
But, they
call it White Chocolate Dream, which is a perfectly good name for it. It is white, and it's chocolatey for sure. Yeah. No question. But I wouldn't call it a blonde stout. I don't know what blonde stout means.
Well, yeah, right. There's no such thing. So they just made up a category to suit the beer, and I guess it's as close as anything else I could think of. Yeah,
blonde stout. What does that mean? Like
no.
A blonde brunette or something? Yes.
Yeah, but it's legit.
It tastes good.
I don't know.
And these guys are local. These boys are right up the street in Baltimore.
Yeah. What do you know?
All right, well done. Black Beauty Brewery, and they've got a crow on the label, so that sounds good to me. All right, so Republican Party and blacks and all that, what's the deal here?
So there was no Republican Party during all of the years of slavery, and in the South, the Democrats held sway, and I don't know what other parties were going on out there, but it wasn't the Republican Party. The Republican,
it's like the Whigs or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. There's other parties came and went. I think.
Yeah.
And Federalist Party.
Here is the birthplace of the Republican Party in Ripon, Wisconsin, or however you say that. Yeah. March 20, 1854, the Republican Party of the United States of America was founded in a schoolhouse. The purpose to counter the Democrats' plan to expand slavery in America.
So the heart and soul, the primary platform
of the
foundation of the Republican Party
was to oppose slavery.
Yes.
Right.
So that's what.
And the first Republican president was Lincoln.
First Republican president was Lincoln.
Yeah.
And he came in and he followed right on through.
So how do we get from that to nowadays where blacks vote in lockstep with the Democratic Party?
Well, we'll get there, my friend.
All right.
We will get there. So, most Democrats voted against the 13th Amendment freeing slaves. No Democrats voted for the 14th Amendment, making freed slaves citizens with equal protection under the law.
Not one.
No Democrats voted for the 15th Amendment, giving freed slaves the right to vote.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm seeing a pattern here.
I am.
Now, how about our first... Our first... I don't know, I was talking to somebody, because of the Civil Rights... the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah.
Who said... Man, is that messed up that blacks couldn't vote before 1968? I'm like, that's not what the Voting Rights Act was. It wasn't that they couldn't they could vote right after the Civil War.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was a matter of making sure that there weren't any restrictions on them voting, trying to keep them away from the polls.
Poll taxes and literacy tests and but the actual permission to vote, went all the way back. In fact, let's talk about our boys here.
Right.
We've got this is talking. So we've got two 1870s. Who you got over there?
So we've got Hiram Rebels from Mississippi, Senator Hiram Rebels.
Senator,
right?
I've got Representative Joseph Rainey from South Carolina, 1870.
1870, and then 1871. We 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more.
Yeah.
We've got. They're all representatives, right? Representative. Yeah. So we get 5 representatives. 1870, 1871.
And and from where? Let's give
so we got
here.
Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Florida. What do you got over there?
Georgia, South Carolina, and South Carolina.
Okay, so it's all in the South.
And what party are they?
They're all Republicans.
They're all Republicans.
Republicans.
In fact, the first 23 black representatives
were Republicans. Wow.
And our first senator came in 1870.
Right.
And
when was the first?
And the party that has the best interest of blacks at heart, she came in.
Carol Moseley Brown was the first black Democratic senator, 1993.
So
that's interesting.
Let that sink in.
Yeah.
1993 for the Democrats, 1870 for the Republicans.
Right. So what happened? What changed? Something crazy happened.
Something is going on here.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, the early elections after, I mean, how many blacks in this newly freed slaves
are going to vote for Democrats. Yeah, they're going to vote for the party that was founded to stop slavery and had the president who freed the slaves.
Yes, and was assassinated over.
Right, that's right. Yeah, by
a Democrat.
So,
yes, and then afterwards, and then during the Reconstruction, when they were reorganizing society to give the blacks all of the freedoms that all Americans have.
Right.
Somebody, I don't know who, founded the KKK in opposition to the Republican Party. Could it be?
I think maybe it was the Democrats.
The Democrats.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's just creep up into. So now we creep into the 20th century.
Okay. Right. So following the Civil War, black Americans largely supported the Republican Party, and in the early 20th century, there was apparently a gradual erosion of Republican support among black Americans because the Republican Party started to focus on business interests and neglect civil rights issues. That's the story that I read. But at the same time, the Democratic Party in the South was still heavily associated with segregation and white supremacy.
Right. So now we've got, can we get up to the Depression here? So things are looking pretty rough.
Yeah. Actually, I want to take one little sidebar here. So a lot of times people will talk about, like white guilt, or, as if you can take things that were done by white people 300, 400, 500 years ago, and then modern day white people are guilty because of that, or should all Democrats be held guilty for what the early Democratic Party did?
And flipping it around, can Republicans, can white people, Republicans or Democrats, get credit for the effort that they made
to free
to end this
madness? Right? Yeah. This whole collective guilt based on what was done in the past is just stupid.
Sins of the father.
Yeah, that really doesn't make any sense.
So, Roosevelt,
yeah,
in his
New Deal
policies, he seemed to be like the guy who is creating make work jobs. I mean, real work jobs.
Yes.
But jobs for people broadly, and I'm sure the Depression hit the black community.
It hit the poor. Hit the poor the most.
Hit the poor, no matter who you are.
Exactly, and unfortunately, a lot of blacks were poor.
And then you're in the South, and you're in farming communities,
right.
and the Dust Bowl wiped out the farming industry, and
right.
So hold on. Where's our little chart here? So 1936, they're running pretty neck and neck.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you would say between
Democrats and Republicans. Which I would like to see this chart go farther back, because it seems that if
starts at 36.
Starts at 36. If this chart were to go back to 1870, I think we'd see a totally different trajectory. But anyway, around that time they were both about the same, Republicans and Democrats. And then, as you say, the New Deal attracted a lot of blacks to the Democratic Party because it seemed like they were addressing things that they cared about.
Right. Harry Truman in the 40s, 1948,
right.
July 26, 1948, ordered the desegregation of the U.S. Armed Forces.
Right.
I mean, you just went to World War II.
Yeah,
you just fought for the country. You just you came. Most of you came back, but not everybody.
Right.
And I mean, for crying out loud.
And there were black regiments and white regiments and that kind of stuff, and that's just crazy. So there you go. So there's like a couple of check marks on the Democratic side. That's right. Yeah. So, and then the Democratic Party increasingly supported civil rights legislation, although I have some statistics that kind of belie that.
Right. Well, increasingly meaning from zero
yes.
to some.
Yes.
So, yes, increasingly, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to, are we up to the Civil Rights Act?
Yeah, no, Civil Rights Act is right, but there's some interesting numbers on that. Like, because if you look at who voted for the Civil Rights Act.
In public consciousness, in what you're taught in school, in the reason that blacks associate themselves with the Democratic Party is the Civil Rights Act. Can I get some numbers, please?
Yeah, so it's interesting. You have to realize that the Democrats were totally in control.
We're crushing the Senate.
And the House.
What are the numbers? 70?
So it was 57 Democrats. 67 Democrats to 33 Republicans.
Ooh, that's an ass whipping there.
That is an ass whipping. And the Democrats, 46 Democrats were in favor of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Which is the majority.
Almost double the number of Republicans.
That's right. But that's 69% of Democrats voted for the Civil Rights Act. But 82% of Republicans voted for it.
So it's like the raw numbers are in favor of the Democrats. That's because you're already 2/3 of the Senate.
Yeah.
I think that's... I did not realize that.
No, I didn't either. And then in the House, it's the same.
Yeah.
63% of Democrats were in favor of the Civil Rights Act. 80% of Republicans were in favor.
So most of the resistance is coming from Democrats.
Right. Yes. And then you get the same thing with the Voting Rights Act. Voting Rights Act of 1965. Once again, you have the Democrats in charge in both houses. And it was 74% of Democrats in favor, but 97% of Republicans in favor. And then in the House, 78% in favor by Democrats and 82% in favor. So the Republicans were much more on the side of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act than Democrats were. And part of the reason for that is the South, the Democratic Party in the South, was still incredibly racist.
Yes, it was. And so what happened, one of the things that happens is the segregationist aspect of the Southern Democrats are so upset with their own party that they move to the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Now, it's not because the Republican Party was... had a platform, a segregationist platform. It's just that they hated their own party, and the Republicans are going, if we're going to pick up seats, and we're going to pick up votes. Well, sure, come on in.
So this is something that liberals will say.
The whole flip-flop.
The flip-flop. The Southern strategy and so on. What they will say is that all the racist Southern Democrats became Republicans.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of refutations of that. That's really not true. But in terms of, if you look at the numbers, it was the Democrats who were against the civil rights things in higher percentages than the Republicans.
Yes. So the overwhelming majority of Republican senators voted for the Civil Rights Act. But in 1964, they nominated Barry Goldwater, who didn't. Mm-hmm. So all those great numbers that you have sort of go by the wayside, because when you see the presidential nominee, you assume that he represents the party.
Yes, and
sets
the agenda for the party. Yeah, it is fair.
And so
they see Goldwater.
And they go, okay, the whole Republican Party.
Yeah.
So that was
although
a missed opportunity.
Wallace was a Democrat and he was a racist, right?
Yes.
So, but he got shot. So
he got shot.
Yeah. Not far from me.
Probably by a Democrat.
Not far from me. Yeah. So right, Goldwater set back the Republican Party with blacks considerably because he was in favor of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we're into Johnson.
Okay.
The controversial Johnson years.
Yes.
So the war on poverty.
Yeah.
I've got two quotes here. One less reliable than the other, but I mean, people repeat it, and it's sourced in a book by a political writer of the time who was on a plane. You know, what do they call that? The presidential
on Air Force
One.
Yeah, that follows the president around. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So supposedly Johnson said, you know, if we can pass this legislation, meaning the beginning of the welfare state.
Right.
Yeah. He says, we'll have them Negroes, not exactly, voting Democrat for 200 years.
He didn't use that word.
He did not.
Yeah.
And that tells you, the fact that he didn't use the word means he's not all that sensitive to the actual needs of the people. He just sees their political advantage.
Yeah, politicians are just after power.
Let me get you to the broader one that nobody denies.
Okay.
He says...
This is also from Johnson.
This is also Johnson. He says, these Negroes, they're getting pretty uppity these days, and that's a problem for us, since they've got something now they never had before.
Okay.
The political pull to back up their uppityness.
Uh-huh.
Now we've got to do something about this. We've got to give them a little something. Just enough to quiet them down. Not enough to make a difference. Huh. And
Very
there is your compassionate Democrat leader who really consolidated the black vote behind this guy who really cares about black Americans.
My understanding of Johnson was he was a flaming racist. He was just a horrible racist, but he saw the political opportunity in getting the black vote, and he took it.
Yeah.
And it was a very cynical political move, and it worked.
Right.
But he didn't do it because he loved black people. He did it because he wanted political power.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's not the only Democrat or any politician.
Frankly, I know, any politician. Exactly. That's what it's all about.
Really. I act like the Democrats are worse, but they all suck. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So before we get on to the question of has the Democrat Party delivered?
Okay.
I want to do a little quick history, and I don't peek.
Okay.
Don't peek.
Okay.
This is called Who Did It?
Who did it?
Who killed Lincoln?
That was a Democrat.
Yeah. And then you get 2 extra points if you can give me his name.
Lee Harvey. No, that's wrong guy. John Wilkes Booth.
All right. Who killed JFK?
Okay, that was Lee Harvey Oswald, and he's a Democrat.
Right. Who killed MLK?
Ray. Yeah, he was a Democrat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James Earl. They all have 3 names.
Ray. Okay. They always have 3. If you're a shooter, you always get 3 names. Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
even the guy who tried to shoot Trump, he's got 3 names.
He does. Who created the Ku Klux Klan?
Oh, that's definitely the Democrats.
All right. Yeah. And who was instrumental in lynching blacks?
Yeah, that was the Democrats.
Yeah.
The Ku Klux Klan.
Who was behind the segregation?
The Democrats.
Yes, and who created the Jim Crow laws?
Jim Crow, who was a Democrat.
Right.
Yeah.
The internment camps of World War II.
Yeah, the Democrats did that.
And who broke from the rest of the country and created the Confederacy?
The Democrats, yes.
And who is the party that's called racist?
The Republicans.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes.
Wow, good job there.
Well, the thing is, they're relatively easy questions because, yeah. But Republicans are always called racist and anti-black and everything, and the history and the facts just belie that.
Yeah.
I mean, except for Goldwater, that's fair.
Yeah.
And there have been racist Republicans just like there are racist Democrats. But in terms of the overall trend and numbers, it's the Republican Party that's been more on black side than.
So the second part of the question with my young son, when I wasn't sure what question he was asking me, he says, "How did that happen?" I think we've gone through the nuts and bolts of how that happened. Now, was he asking how did it flip flop that Democrats became the party that had the best interest of black people in mind? And let's go back to old Johnson.
Yeah. Did he have the best interest of blacks in mind?
Did he even think it was going to make their lives better? He says, just enough to quiet them down, not enough to make a difference.
Yeah, and also there's a very strong argument that what he did was create dependency.
So let me tell you this is a 20-year-old recollection of listening, my early days of listening to Rush Limbaugh.
Okay.
An elderly black gentleman called the show, and he didn't seem to be particularly educated or particularly political.
Okay.
But he had the wisdom of his age.
Yeah.
And he has lived through all of this. And here we're in the 90s, and he was talking about how bad the neighborhood and the community and the families are.
Yeah.
And the way he articulated it was beautiful. He says, things were much better before they started paying our black girls to have babies.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I was just kind of bowled over, but like, wow, that is a great way to...
That's a standard Republican talking point against the Johnson reforms and all the stuff about all the welfare stuff, where if you start paying people to do something...
He wasn't talking about policy. He didn't know the names of... He says he lived before and after, and he says, all I'm telling you is...
Yeah, and by the way, when you mentioned Rush Limbaugh, I'm sure some of our listeners are going to think, Rush Limbaugh, that racist. Okay, ask Bo Snerdley. Yeah. Ask Bo Snerdley if Rush Limbaugh was a racist.
Yeah. And this guy just felt like he probably didn't even know the politics of Rush Limbaugh. He just felt like he had to call in and give his 2 cents.
Right.
And,
the other thing is when you pay somebody for something, you encourage that thing. And they were basically here's the twisted incentive structure of trying to help people. Okay? Yeah. So you see a bunch of single women, single mothers, right? And you think, gosh, that's awful. We want to support single mothers. So you say that what a lovely thing to do.
That's a great thing to do.
Exactly. Single mothers, we should help them.
If you can't see down the block, yes.
So we want to help single mothers. So if we see a single mother, then let's give her some money to help her out so she can send the kid to daycare, so she can work a job, so whatever. And that's lovely. Yeah. But what that does is it disincentivizes
If we see a man in the house,
no, you don't.
We're going to take away your money.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It disincentivizes marriage, which is one of the fundamental building blocks of society and one of the greatest predictors of getting out of poverty and success in life is getting married.
I wish I had the numbers, but there was a point pre-war on poverty where blacks had higher rates.
That's exactly right. I've learned that from Thomas Sowell. That's exactly right.
Yes.
The black community is actually much more conservative than the white community in a lot of different ways. But this is a fundamental problem with a lot of liberal policies, is they start out with a kind of a soft-hearted, a kind-hearted, let's do something to help, and they have the right motivation, but the implementation and the policy is self-destructive and stupid. And paying single mothers to stay single mothers is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
now you're a meanie.
Yeah.
If you try to take that away.
Yeah.
And you're a good person because you don't have the brains. I don't have the brains of Thomas Sowell, but I mean, Thomas Sowell can explain it to you in 2 minutes.
Exactly.
Right?
That's right.
So.
Yeah, and if you haven't looked up Thomas Sowell, look him up. Brilliant man. Absolutely brilliant man. And very good. Yeah.
He's probably 90 and still smarter than everybody.
That's right.
So yes. So that's how. So you get credit for helping the black community as we are the party that will give you free stuff.
Yeah, which doesn't help you in the long run.
Yeah.
But
we get you votes,
we
baby.
Get credit
get
because
you votes all day long.
That's right. That's what it is. It's like Johnson. It's very cynical. We're going to give you money and we're going to get votes and we're going to get your support. But does it help you? I mean, let's look at it over the long term. Has it helped the black community? I don't think so.
So I think what are we? Are we in the 40th year of the war on poverty?
Yeah.
And I don't even know. It's multiple trillions
more than 40.
of dollars.
It was back in the 60s. So we're like the 60th year of the war on poverty.
So we're like in, I don't know, it's like 10, 12 trillion dollars. And the percentage of blacks that are in poverty is roughly exactly the same.
Wow.
So is 40 years and $13 trillion enough for you to say we have run the course on this experiment?
Yeah. Maybe it didn't work. Maybe we should try something else. Yeah. It's hard to believe. Well, maybe we need to spend a little more money.
That's it. You haven't spent enough. Well, that's where reparations comes in.
So, yeah, we need to spend a little bit more. If we spend a little bit more, that'll solve it.
So, and you get the Maxine Waterses and the Elijah Cummingses who preside over dreadful districts.
Yeah.
2-year election after 2-year election for 30 years, and the conditions in your district do not improve.
Yeah.
How do you keep getting voted back in?
I guess you're saying the right things.
It sounds like you care.
Yeah. You care. You're saying the right things, but none of it is making any practical difference. And there's another side of it too, which I've heard interviews with people in black neighborhoods, and they'll say, "I've never even seen a Republican. No Republican has come in here to try to talk to us," and that has been a huge failure.
On you, then.
Yeah, that has been a huge failure of the Republican Party in the last couple decades. Is they haven't even tried to win the black vote. That's one thing that Trump is doing different. Is he's actually trying to win the black vote.
And Kim Klacik, from Baltimore, she is right down in there and lovely. Do you mind my saying that?
Yeah, I don't.
And she is saying, walking right through there in their high heel shoes, going, "What have they done for you?
Right.
What have they done for you?" And so it comes to this. The Democrats were at a low point. Where's our 1992 with
John McCain?
Yeah.
That's the one Republican I did not vote for.
I mean, Romney was tough too.
I was tough to vote for Romney. Yeah, I did pull the but for McCain, I simply could not vote for McCain. I voted for some weird third party candidate.
Weird third party guy.
Yeah,
I'm mad protesting, which I get it, but. So then, the guy that they try to characterize as the most racist candidate who has ever lived, turns out he got a spike.
Yes. Donald Trump has appealed to black voters, I think for a lot of reasons. One is he talks to people like people. He doesn't sound like a politician. Yeah. He can go out onto a work site and talk to. He can go out on a work site and talk to people like people.
Yeah.
And did you see his
the $10 billion billionaire has a much smoother rapport with just your average dude. Now, how did this guy become the blue collar?
Yeah, exactly.
Guy? I mean, it's an amazing, and it's not. I was going to say skill, but it's not a skill because skill implies some phoniness. He's just okay with his limo driver and his doorman and the workers on the Trump project.
Yeah, and he talks to those people. Did you see when he went out to the National Association of White Heterosexual Journalists?
No.
Oh, no, I'm sorry,
that?
I got that wrong.
I missed that.
No, it was the National Association of Black Journalists.
Oh, that one.
That one, yeah. So we went out to the National Association of Black, and kudos to them for inviting him.
Yeah.
And he went out.
And he walked right into the lion's den.
Walks right into the lion's den. He sits down, and the first person to ask him a question just attacks him. And his response, it was amazing. His response was, that was the worst question. Like, you didn't say hi. You didn't say, how are you?
You are a rude person.
Yeah, you are a rude person. I thought, what a genius. Yeah. He has such political instincts. It's amazing. Now, he says a lot of stupid things. He has, he says a lot of goofballs, crazy things. But he also has some really good political instincts that come out from time. That was an example to just point out how rude that woman was for the way she was treating him.
And so, are you saying could this be part of his appeal to his rising?
Speaking the truth,
no,
just
so,
coming
so,
out.
So from whatever the McCain numbers were, getting up to what are we talking about here? 13%, maybe? It was 13% the last election?
Yeah. And supposedly, if a Republican can get more than 15% of the black vote, that's it.
You're done.
Yeah.
And now that especially when you're getting close to 50% of the Latino vote.
Right.
So, I mean, the whole flood the border mentality was, well, every one of these is a Democrat voter. Well, the ones that came in legally and got one generation later started their own businesses and realized
who was on their side.
Who was on their side? Where are my taxes going? Who's helping businesses?
And I don't think Mexicans agree with transing the kids and having men boxing women and
8th month abortions.
Right.
So if you think this whole coalition thing is going to bring in the Latino vote,
Mexicans are more. I mean, you know better than I do, but they're more culturally conservative in a lot of ways.
A lot of ways.
Yeah.
So the last his initial run, was what he got to lose.
Right.
I mean, look at what your Democrat leaders have done for you in your entire lifetime. How much has your lives and your neighborhoods?
How could I do worse?
Yeah, it's like instead of just recycling Democrat
talking points, right?
Yeah, I mean, Democrat representatives like, well, he's not doing so great. Let's get a different Democrat. I mean, you might want to just give it a shot. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a pretty good message. So,
but now his message is different because he has a experience to run on. During his presidency, black employment went up, black poverty went down.
Black-owned businesses.
So
he's got numbers to run on, not just promises.
Yeah, exactly. He said, look, this is what I did last time. And it was actually pretty substantial.
Yeah. And I think you're getting some people who don't feel kowtowed by the Democrat Party because, if you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, how do you get away with saying something like that?
How did you just not get kicked in the nuts all day long
for saying something like that? What a racist thing to say!
It's from that
moron,
senile jackass.
It's amazing what Democrats can get away with saying. That's just an absurd thing to say. If you don't vote for Biden, then you're not black. For a white guy, could you imagine? Here he is, a white guy. Telling black people, if you're not black if you don't vote for me,
and that doesn't sink your political career for the rest of your life.
It would sink any Republican in 5 minutes.
5 minutes, you're done. You might as well just drop out now. Yeah. No, and the guy got elected president.
Crazy.
So they say. I had a couple of other points of
which we got from this video, which we would love to.
We were trying to give credit to this guy.
Yeah, we would love to give credit to this guy, but we can't find. People will say this guy.
You got to listen to what this guy says, and then somebody else retweets, but I can't find who this guy is.
Trying to track it back and can't find him.
Anyway,
he's some black guy,
super cool,
very articulate, has a very clear message, has some very clear points. sorry, this guy, we'd like to give you credit, but we can't. So
if you're out there, let us know.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. Tell us who you are.
So we went through most of these things now. Democrats, states passed segregation and Jim Crow laws.
Right.
Republican Eisenhower forcibly integrated schools.
That's right. That was Eisenhower.
By percentage, more Democrats, more Republicans voted for the two.
Civil rights,
Yeah. Clarence Thomas, nominated by George Bush Sr.
Right.
George W. started an AIDS program that saved 13 million lives, mostly in Africa. My nephew went to a cultural exchange thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, he went to a semester of college in Ghana.
Right.
He said George W. is a big deal.
Really?
You how many times have you heard about what a hero he is in Africa?
Never once.
Do you hear it? Right?
Never once.
What? Zero? He's like, no, big deal.
And he saved how many lives?
It's the program saved 13 million lives, according to our guy.
Okay, right.
He said mostly in Africa, and
right.
they funded historic black colleges to the highest levels. Passed the first.
This is Trump.
Yes,
Trump. Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, Trump. Trump passed the First Step Act, prison reform.
Right.
Trump passed tax cuts and Jobs Act, resulting in the lowest black unemployment in history and the highest black wages. So this guy is going.
Who's on your side and who's just talking?
Who's on your side?
Yeah, and I think that's the truth. The Republican Party is better for blacks than the Democratic Party is. The Democratic Party talks a lot, but everything that they do is not helping the black community.
Right, and this goes back to Bill Clinton saying that generational welfare is not good.
Yes,
that we need,
he was right.
And he was totally right.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any movement? I mean, I don't know where the, what are the obligations of somebody who is receiving? Well, do you have to get drug tested?
Yeah, exactly.
How about this? You get the not Narcan, whatever the thing is. It's a birth control. It's like 5-year birth control.
Oh my goodness!
Right?
Yeah.
So right. How about this? If you're on welfare, I'm daddy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to live under my roof, there's some rules.
Yeah. And
these are the rules. You can't be on drugs. You can't have any more babies. You have to, you have to go out and look for work, right? I mean, what is that? Is that so hateful?
Well, that is the problem of charity. Is on the one hand, like I was saying before about helping single mothers. You want to help single mothers. So you set up this program to give money to single mothers. Yeah. But what that does is discouraging them from getting married, which is actually what's better for them. So one of the problems with getting people off welfare is you want to move people off welfare into work, but that can be harsh in some situations, and a lot of people, there's kind of this soft-hearted, we just want to give, but that's not helping. That's not solving the problem.
Right. What do you think? The local black preacher would say?
Exactly.
He would be on your side. I don't know why he's not a Democrat. I mean, why he's not a Republican? He's probably a Democrat.
Yeah, probably.
That's how it works. So can Trump get 15%? And
I think he can.
I'm seeing a lot of momentum.
I think he can. Say. Although now with Scamala in the race, it's hard to say. It's hard to say because she might pull some of the black vote back to the Democratic Party. Although, what a disaster that woman is. I mean, she wears knee pads under her pants.
We have got ourselves a show coming up here. We'll tease the future Scamala show.
Right.
She is terrible.
She is terrible.
But over the last 2 weeks, might be the greatest politician that's ever lived.
Yeah, if you listen to the media, that's right. Yeah. So the media, who didn't
like her,
while Joe was still, on life support and going to be the nominee, they were basically ignoring Kamala and saying, no, how about this person, because they knew that Kamala she was a horrible candidate. Like the last time she ran, she got 0 votes. She had to drop out before Iowa. She was a terrible candidate, and everybody knows she's a terrible candidate. She cackles like a moron. She's completely unserious. She's just a terrible politician.
Her policies are farther left than anything we've even seen.
She is okay. Here's a funny thing. Some supposedly nonpartisan group rated her the most liberal senator in the Senate.
Yeah.
They've taken that down off their website now.
Yes,
This
the
is
old memory
rewriting
holding, the old 1984ing
Yes.
rewriting history,
Yeah.
and there was also a site. We'll do this as a show, but the site that Harris as the border czar.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it was
That's
Wikipedia.
hilarious. Yeah.
That was also has been removed from
Right.
sites.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I think it was
And
Wikipedia.
that montage of, Kamala Harris, the border czar. Kamala Harris is not the border czar. Just going back and forth on the same exact programs.
Yes,
It's so
embarrassing.
It is
for
so
them. But
embarrassing.
I mean, if you have no
they're
shame,
beyond embarrassment.
you don't
They have
get
no shame.
embarrassed.
That's right. They have no shame.
I'll save my man of the week for some other day. So I think to wrap this up, it's clear that the Republican Party has always been from 1854
Yes. In Ripon, Wisconsin.
Ripon, Wisconsin, has been the genuine party for Black Americans.
Yes.
And you know what? If we can get 15% and improve the lives of...
I think we should get 45%. I mean, it's just ridiculous that blacks continue to vote in lockstep for Democrats who've really done nothing for them.
Nothing for them. But we'll see.
We'll see. All right. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.